Hey guys, welcome to your next project. So this is going to be another short one. We can get this done in a single video. So we're going to have this auto text effect or auto typing effect, and you've probably seen this on with different websites where it just kind of types it out by itself. So we're going to add this effect. We're going to style this, which isn't going to take too much, and then also we're going to add this speed control. So you can see it's at 1 right now, and if I make it to 2, it's going to go a little faster. 3, 4, 5. So you can see it just keeps getting faster, and it has a max of 10 right now, but of course you could make that whatever you want. So this is something you might see on like a hero banner on a website. Obviously you probably wouldn't have the speed control, but again, this is just to learn, to add event listeners, to make things happen in the DOM. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so we're going to get started on our auto typing effect, and we should be able to do it in this one video. So let's start with the HTML. We'll call this auto text effect. And let's do an H1 here. We're just going to say starting ... because the phrase that's going to be typed out is going to be set in the JavaScript, and then we'll add it to this H1 using this ID of text. And then under that, we're going to have a div that's going to have the speed control. So we'll have a label for speed, and say speed : and underneath that we'll have an input, and this is going to be the type of number. And we'll say name is going to be speed, and ID is also speed. And I also want to set the initial value to be 1. And we can set a min and a max on a number field. So min will be 1, and then let's set max to 5. And we'll set the step value. Let's set that to 1. So it just counts up by 1 if you hit the little arrow up or down. All right, so we'll save that. It's going to look like this. And we're going to just add in our style here. So the body, let's add a background color, and we're going to use dark salmon for the background color here, and everything else we can leave, that's fine. For the div, so basically the where we control the speed, let's change that. I'm going to position that absolute, and I want that to be at the bottom, so let's do 20 pixels up from the bottom. So we'll move it down there, and then let's do a background, kind of like a transparent, almost transparent background. We'll use RGBA black and 0.1, and then let's add some padding to this. So 10 pixels top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right, and then let's set the font size to 18 pixels. All right, and then for the input itself, we'll just grab it by input. Let's set the width of that to 50 pixels. Let's set the padding, we'll do 5 pixels, and the font size I'm going to set, let's do 20 pixels. Actually, that's kind of big. Let's do 18. And then let's set the background of that. I'm going to set that to a background color of dark salmon as well, and then the border, we're just going to get rid of that. Okay, and then let's text align to the center, and I think we should be good. Now for the focus, like if I click in here, I want to get rid of this border, this outline. So let's say for the input, when it's in its focus state, let's set the outline to none. All right, so now we can, increase this, decrease it, good. So let's jump into our JavaScript. So let's start off by bringing in our text element. So I'm going to call this text L, and we want document get element by ID, and we're going to bring it in by its ID of text. We also want the speed, so the number input has a ID of speed, so we'll call this speed element, and then I'm going to create a text variable which will have the actual text we want to type out, which I'm going to say we love programming, and obviously that could be whatever you want. And then I'm going to initialize an index variable at 1, and this is going to pertain to where we are in the text, because we're going to be typing it out one by one. And then also the speed, so I'm going to say let speed, and you could set this in many different ways. I'm going to just take 300 and divide it by whatever the value of this is. So we'll take the speed element and we can get the value with dot value. So it'll be, you know, start out with 300 divided by 1 or 300 divided by 2, and that's going to make it faster as we increase it. Now we're going to initially call a function called write text. So we want to create that function, and we want to take the text element and set the inner text to, and then we'll start off with just the W in this case because it's going to be the first letter in the string. So we can take the text, which is we love programming, and then call dot slice, and with slice we can get a certain range of the string. So I want to get from 0 to 1 in this case, which the index starts at 1. All right, so if I save that, we're just going to see a W on the screen. Now after we do that, we want to take the index and increment it by 1. So adding a plus plus just sets it, you know, if it's at 1, it's going to go to 2, then 3, 4, and so on. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that. And then I just want to check to see if it's the end of the string that we're typing out, so we can test and see if the index is greater than the text dot length, which is going to be the entire length of whatever we have here. If that's true, then I'm going to just reset the index to 1, so it just will start over. You don't have to do that. You could just stop it or whatever, but we're just going to have it keep going. Now we need this to keep happening, right? So we need to keep calling this write text. So inside here, let's call a set timeout, and we want to call write text. What set timeout does is it runs a specific function, in this case write text, and then it'll wait a specific amount of time. So I could say like 100 milliseconds or 1000 milliseconds, which would be 1 second. Now I don't want this to be hard-coded. I want to wait whatever the speed is. Okay, so whatever that speed is what we want to set as the second argument to set timeout. Now if I save this, it's going to go ahead and start to type out. So it's basically just calling this, and then when it hits the end, it starts over because we reset the index to 1. And I could set this to anything I want up here. You know, if I set this speed to 1000, that's going to be every 1 second. If I set it to, let's say, 10,000, it's going to be every 10 seconds. 100 milliseconds, that's going to be quicker, but I'm going to keep it at that, what I had it at. And then for this, we want this to control, you know, how fast this goes. So let's take the speed element and let's add an event listener onto it. Remember, the speed element is a number input, and I want to listen for any input, meaning if we type the number in or if we use the arrow keys. And then we'll have an arrow function here with our event object, and when this is called, we just want to set the speed equal to 300 divided by whatever the value is here. So e.target.value. Okay, so it should happen, you know, in real time or whatever. If I click to 2, it's going to start going faster. If I click to 3, faster, 4, 5, and that's the max I can go because we set that max here. If I set this to 10, and I could type in here too, so if I type in 10, you see how fast it goes. If I type in 5, it goes a little slower. If I type in 1, so I mean, you probably wouldn't have this control on your actual website. Like maybe you'd have a hero image with this effect. You probably wouldn't give the speed effect as well, but this is just for learning, you know, so you can learn how to add events and manipulate the DOM and do little things like this. But of course, this would be cool just to have in your hero page, your hero banner or whatever on your website. So that's it. I know this is a very short project. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want to add to it, maybe you could add an input up here or down here that you could type in the text and it would change this. And I might even do some videos later on where I take some of the projects we've already done and add to it, but I would suggest you do that on your own as well. All right, enough rambling. Let's move on to the next video.